All right, degenerates, welcome back to the altcoin hunt. Meme coins, they're attention machines. And today we're going to be dissecting BONK. This is the premier meme coin on Solana. If you think it's just another bark with no bite, stay with me for a while. Let's fetch the data and then decide if you want to expose your degen bag to this or not. BONK is the one that turned Solana back on and into the minds and hearts of everyone in the meme coin degenerate community after the FTX collapse. It's listed everywhere that matters, and it trades on perps. It has its own launch pad funneling fees back into the ecosystem. Cute dog, serious flows. Let's get into it. We're going to start off, as we always do, with the narrative and vision. It airdropped its first coin. There's 350 plus integrations across Solana D apps for BONK, plus info like BONK bot, top TG trading bot by lifetime volume, which is a crazy metric by TG, I mean Telegram, and a community launchpad, letsbonk.fun. It's actually generating real fees. So there's a lot to be excited about with BONK. There's also almost 1 million holders. We can check the Sol scan really quick. Yeah, 972,000 holders, so almost 1 million, which is pretty insane. It has a for the people sort of airdrop origin in December 2022, so it's been around a while. The goal was to push liquidity back into Solana DeFi, and I think it nailed it, right? There's 350 on-chain integrations, like I mentioned. They're doing NFTs, games. I mean, they're all over the place. On their X, they have almost 500,000 followers. So this is a community first meme with real distribution, real integrations, and a community behind it. There are native growth engines, which I think is the real big plus here, meaning the BONK bot, launchpad. It creates attention and sort of flow loops, which is important for a meme coin, but it's still narrative. It's still meme first in terms of a narrative. There is culture risk if Solana meta kind of rotates. Right now, as of today on August 12th, ETH is the sort of darling of the secondary ecosystem. Can Solana flip it back? Sure, but Solana sort of had its run for the first part of this bull cycle. We'll see if that ends up being the case towards the end, or if it can take back some of the throne, so to speak. But for narrative and vision, I mean, BONK is strong. I gave it a 15 out of 20. There's no real red flags here. It is super heavily community driven. Their white paper is kind of funny. I mean, the legal disclaimer is like 5 pages long before you get into the core thesis. And the total thing is like 13 pages with a bunch of slop in between. But that's saying something. It's got a white paper, which most meme coins don't have. But anyway, let's dive into the tokenomics and supply. So for BONK, initially there was 100 trillion BONKs tokens. The current max is 88.8 trillion BONK. Circulating is about 80 trillion. There's a planned 1 trillion burn program tied to holder milestone and buyback flows. Marginally deflationary, but mostly narrative fuel. And we'll kind of circle back to that in a second. The distribution, this is from the BONK white paper. So there's 50% airdrop to the community. There's 21% early contributors, 16 for the BONK DAO treasury. For the early contributors, there's a 3-year linear vest, which is important to note. That started January 1st, 2023. So we're pretty much coming up to the end of that. 5% for initial liquidity and 5% for marketing. So the distribution is fair. The big number meme for the trillions still persists, and upcoming batch and burn changes optics more than economics, unless really paired with new demand. So the airdrop was fair. There's no overt VC carve out for this. Vesting was transparent, all green flags, but there's a huge float still. Burns are small versus the total supply. And for that reason, I didn't ding them too hard. I gave it a 13 out of 20 for tokenomics and supply. We can move on to the tech and execution. BONK is a top 50 coin on CoinMarketCap currently. Of course, it is a Solana token. And again, for the tech and execution, their main things here are BONK bot. They're also doing sports betting, which is absolutely nuts, but whatever. So the Telegram trading bot is among the top bots by lifetime volume, which is kind of insane. Telegram is where all the degenerate sort of bot trading goes on. BONK swap, which is their sort of AMM DEX, and some ancillary tools is good. There is a modestly active GitHub. I mean, at least it's open. There's not too much activity, but whatever, it's there. You can look at it. And Let's BONK.fun, which is their launch pad, ships fast with sort of the Radium infrastructure behind it. We can take a look at their launch pad. So this is Let's BONK Fun, basically kind of like Pump Fun, that sort of thing. You can launch your own token, blah, blah, blah. It creates a nice activity loop and attention loop. So that's definitely positive as well. For tech and execution, they're doing all you could possibly do really as a meme coin. And for that reason, I gave it a solid 14 out of 20. We can move on to market structure and liquidity. BONK is available absolutely everywhere. Binance is by far the heaviest with 17%, Coinbase with 7%, but they have heavy coverage, right? And they are on Coinbase Spot, which is important for the US market. There's deep 24-hour liquidity. The market cap is $2 billion. The volume is about 25% of the market cap, which is really good. And yeah, there's nothing really bad here. There's multiple on-ramps and off-ramps for this. There's decent depth. And of course, there's perps trading for BONK. However, derivative listings can end free pumps, quote unquote, pretty fast. So you have to watch funding, open interest spikes, things like that if you're trading this and using it as a trading vehicle. And I'll get into why it might actually be best for a trading vehicle and not long-term hold when we get into the chart towards the end. But for market structure and liquidity, super solid here in terms of meme coins and how they're usually illiquid and there's slippage and there's issues with being able to get in and out of them. BONK is a solid 17 out of 20 for market structure and liquidity. And we can move on to the second to last section now, exit risk and VC stakes. So there's no classic VC slab for this. The biggest structured chunks are contributors, which are 21% vested over 3 years, as we mentioned, the DAO and legacy marketing and sort of liquidity brackets, which were 5% each. Team is largely anonymous. There is DOA governance and contributor allocations carry governance coordination risk. As always, there is a corporate tie-in here. Safety Shot acquired 10% of BONK.fun revenue and added 25 million BONK to the treasury. BONK.fun did 35 million in fees in July and grabbed dominant market share, a pipeline that can cycle fees back into BONK in terms of buybacks and burns. So that is a narrative booster for sure and definitely a positive. Again, the holder base is absolutely insane, 972,000 holders of BONK. It reduces single whale blowup risk, which is really positive, but it doesn't eliminate mania drawdowns. So for that reason, I gave it a solid score, 15 out of 20 for exit risk and VC stakes, which gives us a total score of 74 out of 100, one of the highest scores I've given, especially for a meme coin. This is a high risk, high reward play. It could 3x, it could die. So tread carefully. You know, why did I give it 80 plus? Because the token is still meme anchored, right? There's supply optics that require ongoing catalysts for new capital. Execution is strong, but the moat here is cultural and community based. And I didn't give it a lower score because it actually built some rails, right? The Telegram bot, the DEX, the Launchpad, the locked up CEX and derivatives liquidity, and a stitched in fee engine. Those things are all super positive. That's more than 99% of other meme coins. So again, the score is 74 out of 100, a super strong score. And we'll end this one by taking a quick look at the chart. And I know I mentioned this earlier that this might actually be better for sort of short-term trading than it would be for a long-term hold. I think there's still a case to be made for a long-term hold. But as you can see from the chart here, since the beginning, this is a daily chart. And I really had a hard time figuring out what I sort of wanted to point out for the TA here. But I think the most simplest things you can do is, you know, there's clearly a floor here. Like this would be your clear sort of bottom price. If you can get in down here, that is pretty much a safe bet, as safe as you can get anyway with a meme coin. And then for the sort of tops, there's this weird range, which is probably like right here. You had this, you know, end of the year pump after the elections and everything, where everything was just kind of ripping. And then it came back down and back through. And why I said that this would be great for trading is because to me, this chart is clearly mean reverting, right? You go from one extreme from the bottom to the top in these huge rips. If I can show them here a little bit easier, you have these sort of huge rips from the bottoms to the tops. You have clear trending conditions all across the chart. And now again, we've hit this sort of top here and are, kind of reverting back to the mean, which if you think that this is sort of a top and bottom channel, the mean would be probably somewhere like around there. It would be a good trading vehicle, right? Especially with perps. And that's what does add volatility to this. Again, long-term hold. If I can remove all these drawings really quick, if we zoom out to the weekly chart and take a look at that, you can see it's even more compressed. It's basically just been range bound this entire time in this sort of area like this. If you're a long-term holder, what you'd be looking for is something to the effect of breaking out of this range, probably retesting, holding, and then you might see price discovery, new all-time highs, something like that. So that's what I would be looking at if I'm a long-term BONK investor. But regardless, that's kind of my thoughts about the chart. Nothing too crazy there. This was a fun token to review. Obviously, it's super popular, almost 1 million holders, which is insane. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this analysis. If you did, if you made it with me this far, thank you for watching. I'm not even going to ask you for it. You know what to do. I drop these 3 times a week. So thanks so much for sticking with me. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.